Hey folks, this is Jim, Mr. X. Well, usually we review the card break or a old pay-per-view, but tonight I feel compelled. I'm sick. Mr. X is sick of what we just saw. We're gonna review Smackdown from December 4th tonight. Show started with a little everybody on stage for a tribute to Pat Patterson, who died this week. He was the first Intercontinental Champion. He won a tournament, quote, quote, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He was the North American Heavyweight Champion, and he defeated...
Was he the North American or was he the South American?
You're right, Mr. X. You're a little older than me, so... you're right. He was the South American champion. He defeated Ted DiBiase, who has been everywhere, who was the North American champion. And that became the Intercontinental Champion, baby.
Meaning the Intercontinental between the North America and South America.
That is correct.
Not, as Sami Zayn incorrectly said, all the continents.
No, because if you look at inter, that's what it means. Between the continents. So, Pat Patterson was a Hall of Famer. Hands down, he was all over. Probably his most famous was in LA, working for Roy Shire. Or San Fran, sorry, for Roy Shire. I know he was...
Didn't he work for the LaBelles too in LA? I think he did. Wasn't he US champ too for a little while?
I believe he was. But I know that him and Ray Stevens were a team.
Yeah. They were a big team.
All right, so...
I mean, what do you think he's most famous for, though? You think first IC champ, boot camp matches with Slaughter? What do you think, like, in ring was his most famous?
Well, in this era of what we have, I'm gonna say probably known as the first internet IC champ because they always bring it up. They always bring up the tournament. You brought up the boot camp match. That boot camp match was brutal. Him and Sergeant Slaughter went at it. I believe in Madison Square Garden, if I remember right.
And that was a pre-runner to the Iron Sheik and Slaughter, right? In the boot camp match. I think that match preceded it.
I believe it did, and it is on the network. So we may have to go back and...
I think we have to go back and watch that one.
And we're gonna have to do a watch along on that one because that one, folks, that was some brutal stuff.
Yeah.
Pat Patterson, I'm not going to say invented the Royal Rumble, but pretty much he was the father of the Royal Rumble.
It was his idea. It was his brainchild.
Now, a Royal Rumble concept was not unique, though, at the time.
Well, they had their battle royals for so many years, but to introduce it in a different way, I mean, it was a good idea because if you think about it, like, what's the biggest thing about a battle royal? That's usually the worst part about it. It's kind of like a cluster in the beginning of a match. You got 20 or more sometimes guys starting a match, and you can't even move in there. The guys can get hurt, stepped on, whatever. So Royal Rumble kept it where he started with only 2 guys in the ring. And so they can actually work, move around, do whatever spots they want to do. And the ring can fill up. And then you get a guy like Kane in there and he just cleans out the ring again, and he resets. So, you can tell a lot of stories, and you can do a lot of things with rivalries and stuff like that.
Sure, you can set up stuff like they used to do. If you go back and watch the old Royal Rumbles, you can see, okay, they're setting them up for WrestleMania. Because that was the next big show after that when they had the big 4. See what I did there? 4?
Yeah, clever.
So... Pat Patterson was a legend, and he was the first openly gay wrestler. It came out in 2012 officially, but I think everybody knew before that. It was kind of common knowledge everywhere, but his preference makes no difference.
I think his biggest contributions in the wrestling were backstage, like just his mind for like finishes and um, you know angles. I had more finishes than anything, but just he was you know he's really good at that. Like a lot better than say Dusty Rhodes. I'll say.
Well, and I think that's where Vince Jr. had a leg up on Crockett slash WCW. Pat Patterson, he was a guy known for finishes. So that's, you can't beat that. Yeah, you can have all the stuff leading up to it, but if you don't have a good, solid finish or a how to close out a match or a feud, you got nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's where the heat is.
So we went to commercial and we come back. This is where, frankly, folks, we try to have fun on the show on this channel, but this show kind of brought us down tonight. You had an interview with Roman Reigns, and Jey Uso comes out talking their family junk, head of the table junk, and bottom line is, Kevin Owens came out saying, I want to challenge you for the title at TLC.
And he wanted to fight tonight.
Well, I believe they already had the tag team with him and Otis against.
No, but I think he wanted it like right then and there. Just open the show, right?
The title or the
the match, whatever. Owens wanted him like right then and there at the top of the show.
You're right, but what happened?
Well, he challenged him, and then instead of Reigns accepting or Paul Heyman or anything, Jey Uso grabbed the mic and he accepted on their behalf,
and that
to the fight.
That's where we're gonna start heading downhill. So next we had my personal favorite, Natty Neidhart. She was taking on the longest reigning women's champion, 300 and some days, Bayley, but she was not the champion no more because her ex-best friend beat her for the title. That'd be Sasha. But we had Bianca Belair guest commentary, and pretty much Natty put her in the sharpshooter, beat her clean.
That was surprising.
Well, it was, but we talking during the show. You have a theory on this, though.
Well, I don't know. It seems like to me that Bayley might be headed for a break from TV for a while, because they had her drop the belt and then she kind of was done with Sasha Banks. So like it's like she doesn't even want to get the belt back, which she was only. It doesn't really make sense to me, character wise. And then she loses at the Survivor Series. She loses to Natty tonight. And taps out. In a quick match. I don't know how long it was, and then it looks like she's got a problem with Bianca Belair. But if she's gonna have a match with her, she's probably gonna lose that on TV too. Then where does she go after that? So I don't know. I think she might be headed for a break on TV. I don't know.
Well, it's possible. She maybe deserves one a little bit. I mean, she was running almost a year as a champion, so that takes a lot out of you. We had a Pat Patterson, basically a tribute match. You had, and just heads up, all the competitors in this match were former or current IC champions. So you had Daniel Bryan,
it was Mysterio. Yeah, it was Mysterio.
Daniel Bryan, Mysterio, and Big E taking on Shinsuke
Ziggler and Sammy, the current IC champ.
You're right. See, folks, this show was so bad. My brain is just my brain is toast at this point.
You should have took some notes because I can't remember everything myself.
Well, this is off the cuff. This is what we do here, folks. What we do on the show. We're just real. So it's a good back and forth match, and
I didn't understand why they didn't just make this an IC title match. Frankly, I mean they had the original belt on a podium outside the ring, and why didn't they put the belt on the line? It's just what the heck. I mean, there was. Yes, they're all current, the current champion and former champions, but what were the stakes? What was to win? I mean,
good point. If you're gonna memorialize the first IC champion, let's make it you're right. Let's make it a 6-way, 6-pack challenge, whatever you want to call it.
However you want to do, ladder match, whatever. Yeah.
But they should have had but the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time was not there tonight, though.
Are you talking about Honky Tonk Man?
No! I'm talking about Santino Marella.
Oh, okay. All right, you got me there.
So, the Daniel Bryan team wins, and after the match, they get back in the ring, and they get rid of Shinsuke and Zayn. Ziggler's in there. And they did all their finishes on him.
This segment looked very, very, very hokey to me.
Yes, and you had an observation about Daniel Bryan during the match yourself.
Yeah, well, there was spots where he does that sequence of moves where he runs up to the top turnbuckle and he flips over, and then he dives to the floor, and he looked slow doing it. It looked like he was being very careful not so as to miss a step and maybe mess up on live TV. But it I don't know, it just didn't come off too good because he was just doing it so slow compared to how he'd do it before.
Okay. Or do you think that maybe that neck injury from a few years ago, maybe it's just creeping in the back of his head again?
Possibly. I mean, he was taking some pretty big bumps. Although you don't want to take a bad one, which could happen on a spot like that. But
sure,
I don't know. It just seemed like he was being careful not to because if you miss one of those steps when you're running up, you're gonna mess up big time on TV. So hard to say.
That's true. Then we had a channel changer for me, folks. Honestly, this guy I try to keep positive on the show.
Wait a minute, didn't we have that two-way interview thing, two-way go?
You're right, Mr. X. Before that, we did not have a channel changer. We had the current champion, Sasha Banks, split screen interview with Carmella. Makes no sense when you got two wrestlers that don't obey the rules here going against each other. It does not work for me, brother.
Yeah, that was odd. I mean, two people just that are the obnoxious, like just it's just a weird dynamic to me.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't come off well. But then we come to the channel changer. For me, this guy puts me to sleep. King Corbin.
Yeah, they threw to a video of I guess this was last week, where the Mysterios that all ended up basically, except for Ray's wife, Angie, all ended up helping Murphy to beat Corbin. And so this week, when Corbin came out, he had two. This was odd because they had suit jackets and they had hoodies on. It was just odd. But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, and it turns out that was Steve Cutler and Murphy's old tag team partner, Wesley Blake, from the Forgotten Sons. I don't know if they got called up. I don't know, whatever, but they were in Corbin's corner taking on Murphy, who's out there with Dominic Guerrero, and maybe Eddie's daughter. We're not sure. Aaliyah. And
Well, they did a paternity test on Dominic, right? So many years ago, and they did say that was Eddie's son. So I was okay, Dominic Guerrero, but the timeline doesn't fit for Aaliyah. So
okay,
and
all right, that one's questionable.
and Ray was back out for that match too.
Okay, so my question is, why was the referee allowing them out there? I do not believe any of them have managerial licenses.
Yeah, that's odd one. I can't figure that one out quite by myself. But see, that's the thing, right? That we talk about like stuff like the 3 count, stuff like it's too bad. Like it's just how it goes. Like Joey Morello with WrestleMania 3. If he counts a 3 count, too bad. I mean, it's up to you to kick out. If you don't kick out, too bad. To me, because if you're gonna if the official's not gonna enforce the rules, then what's the point of the match? It's just
You're right. During the match, Ray and Dominic Guerrero were someone in the corner, but you made an observation, pretty astute, by the way, that Aaliyah was nowhere near them. So you're thinking, okay, something's going to happen here. And it did. Corbin basically took out the two guys, and Aaliyah was basically about maybe 10 foot away. Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, the two NXT guys took out Ray and Dominic.
Then Corbin hit his finisher, and that was it. And also throughout the night they were showing, remembering Pat Patterson with tweets and photos of current and former WWE superstars and divas, with photos of them with Pat Patterson. Very, very heartwarming, very touching, but you gotta leave them up so we can read them. But they were kind of fast forwarding right through them, so whatever. So main event, as we kind of discussed.
Well, we had that strange segment backstage that I couldn't understand. Well, we had a couple of them, right? We had
Again, I want to put this show out of my memory bank. So
Kayla was backstage with Owens for one, and they just talked about some stuff, and then we had that weird one with the Street Profits because they weren't wrestling, and then for some strange reason you had Rude come into the picture and Cesaro, and they're all quibbling about a tag team title, but nothing comes of it.
Well, that to me a little strange, but as you mentioned, Ziggler is Rude's partner, but Ziggler was already kind of involved in something tonight.
But so was Nakamura.
You're absolutely right, but this is making me think here. At the next TLC, I think we're gonna have a 3-way for the titles.
It's completely possible.
With the Street Profits against Rude and Ziggler and
Nakamura and Cesaro.
I think we got
Sure.
I think we got our next match here.
Sure, why not?
So Otis, oh yeah, comes out.
Oh, and although also, by the way, before that, during in a segment backstage, just at brief, Roman Reigns is heard telling Jey Uso that there'll be consequences or something about him accepting the challenge. So Jey Uso is noticeably worried about that for some reason. But anyway, go ahead.
You're right. They've been saying that, folks. Again, this show kind of puts our heads. We're messed up tonight because this show just kind of blatantly it was terrible. It was just terrible, as Charles Barkley would say. So Otis, oh yeah, comes out. Who, by the way, is making the shaft. He was one of the most over guys in WWE going into WrestleMania, and he won the Money in the Bank briefcase on top of Titan Towers. The guy was huge with the fans, fun-loving guy, and they decided to take the briefcase from him just because they wanted to do something for Raw. Terrible. But his partner comes out with Owens. And then we go to commercial. I don't know why they don't plan these things out, time it out better, but hey, whatever. So, Jey Uso comes out. He looks around, no Roman Reigns. And Mr. X was telling me, I believe the referee made it a handicap match.
Right. I mean, without saying anything, I don't think the commentator said anything. So the referee looks at the situation, assesses it. Jey Uso's ready to wrestle, and Owens and Otis, one's out, one's in. Referee looks at it, rings the bell. So I'm taking it. The referee is making it a handicap match, 2-on-1. You need tags. That's what it seems like.
To me, once you ring the bell, it's an official match.
Right. And whatever the stipulation is, that's what the stipulation is.
You're right. And folks, just to put it out there again, this is why we wanted to do the video tonight. Mr. X was he's got a lot of thoughts on this main event, so I'm just gonna let him go here.
And then so you had some. They're going back and forth. Uso's doing all right, but the two guys are gonna get the advantage. Then after a certain amount of time, then Roman Reigns' music hits and he comes out. And now he's going to get on the apron. But my thought process is, well, okay, so this was a handicap match. So the referee, are you ending the match and restarting the match as a tag team match now? Or are you not? Because you haven't signified anything. And if it was a handicap match to begin with, you can't just have some guy come from the back and get on an apron and tag in, because that's not the rules of a handicap match. So you didn't restart the match, so it's a handicap match. Or is it a tag match? Who knows? But it's not clear. So Reigns gets in the ring without a tag, attacks Otis on the floor, who's not the legal man, which, if it's a handicap match, how is that now not a disqualification?
Because he's interfering with a participant in the match. Otis is an official wrestler in the match.
Right. Now if you're saying it's a tag team match, okay, whatever, but they never restarted the match. So he attacks Otis with the top of the steel stairs on the floor.
And you notice he had trouble pulling that off. Too.
Yeah.
But hey.
He basically takes him out. We don't see Otis after this. So okay, so now if it's a legal tag match, how are you able to use the steel step to incapacitate your opponent on the floor, hitting him about, I don't know, 8-9 times? How is that not a disqualification?
So it's either, if it's a handicap match, Reigns is not a participant in the match, he attacks Otis. That should be a DQ. Or if it is an official tag match, that should also be a DQ, because now you're using an international object.
Right. So Uso comes around, Owens comes around, and again, we don't see Otis. I don't know where he was the whole rest of the match. I don't know if he was lying down behind the barricade. I don't know. We literally don't see him the rest of the night. I don't understand. So, okay, he's hit with stairs. Okay, we can believe that maybe he's out of it. But if he's hurt that bad, why didn't the medical personnel come down, right? So again, stupid stuff that. Like I told you, look, it's entertainment, okay? But whatever the rules are of that universe is, you have to abide by it. Like on The Walking Dead, right? If you all of a sudden see a vampire on The Walking Dead, you're gonna be like, WTF, because they don't exist in this universe. You've just broken the rules. Same thing here. It's supposed to be an athletic contest, right? Rules are supposed to be in place, and yet it's just being thrown out the window, right? So now Cole and Graves are saying, well, now it's a handicap match the other way, because Owens now doesn't have a partner, and again, no medical personnel come down and check on Otis, who's apparently seriously hurt from a stair attack, which didn't cause a DQ, and he doesn't need medical help, but he still can't get up to his feet and even be seen, but whatever. So the match continues, right? And Owens is doing all right. It's going back and forth, but eventually the numbers catch up, and we get to a point where they work him over, and Jimmy Uso basically has Owens down in the middle of the ring, and he's going to go for his splash from the top rope. And as he looks over to Roman Reigns for approval or whatever it is, Reigns looks at him and says, "Hey, no, I want to finish this match," or something to that effect. That, hey, reaches out his hand and says, "Give me a tag." So,
and Jey Uso has to follow what Roman Reigns tells him because that was part of the deal when he lost the match a couple pay-per-views ago to Roman Reigns.
So he gets down, but by this point, Owens gets up, right? And he strikes. And then so Uso gets knocked down, and Roman Reigns comes in without a tag. And he sinks in a choke, right? It's a guillotine, right?
Yes.
Guillotine, was it Armin? I don't know. He had a guard, he had a guillotine in. And after 1 second of getting in the ring and putting a guillotine on Kevin Owens, now the referee decides to disqualify the team of Reigns and Uso, giving the win to Owens and Otis. Where was this DQ? Before he comes, 1 second he comes in without a tag, and now he's going to disqualify him?
That makes no sense.
I don't understand.
Because you're right. If he's going to allow everything that happened earlier in the match, then Reigns gets in. Yes, illegally, no tag, but
is not going to lay an account?
No. But like you said earlier, you told me, hey, referee has to follow the rules too. So, you if you're gonna, you have to enforce the rules. So if you're not gonna DQ them for that, but yet you're gonna DQ them for him coming in for 2 seconds without laying a count in, you have a count of 4 to double team. But weird stuff.
Yeah, and then they lay the chairs in on Owens to end the show basically, and then you tell them what happens at the end.
Then Roman Reigns waffles Jey Uso with a chair, saying, "I hate having to repeat myself," and he kept wailing him with a chair. I guess because those are the consequences for accepting the match. That happened about an hour and 35, 40 minutes before that. And that's how the show ended.
Well, it ended with Roman Reigns saying some kind of thing to Kevin Owens that we couldn't even really hear.
You're right.
I don't know what that was about.
Again, he was basically talking to him.
Without a mic.
But there's no fans there, so you could actually pick it up, but it was kind of muffled. So we may be doing more of these reviews, but tonight we just had to jump on here because it stuck in our craw so much that we had to get it out. It was terrible. Next show, it's going to be Sunday, NXT War Games. You're going to have the Uber Eats Undisputed Era going to take on, I'm not even sure what they're calling themselves.
Are they trying to call themselves Kings of Wrestling or something?
I believe they are.
I didn't catch it exactly.
I believe they are, but
Pat McAfee and Lorcan and Birch and
the Bruiser,
right?
Yes, and Pete Dunne, he was stuck overseas because of the whole band thing. He looks incredible. He lost a lot of weight. He looks in great shape, but we might review that. We may not. We're not sure. But this show just, again, it's stuck in our craw. But we try to be positive on this channel. Hope you guys are enjoying our series. Leave us feedback, what you want to see, what you don't want to see, what we can change. If we need to change out the host, hey, I can do that. But anyway, after the show, you know what I got to do. And after this show, I definitely need my beer. So from the SCF Studios, this is Jim, Mr. X signing off.